Do 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 do. What's up, people? Party people in the house. Is anybody here? Oh, there's Cameron. What's up, Cameron? Wave. Wave.
What's a good word for begins?
Begins, starts.
Commence.
Huh? Commences?
Commencement.
Starts always better. You should always start with, you should always use the simplest possible word.
Yeah.
That's my motto.
I'm trying to alliterate though, so.
You're trying to make things sound similar. You're trying to use the same consonants.
Coinciding with the commencement of.
I always like words that sound like the thing that they are describing. Like alliterative is alliterative. It alliterates the words, the syllables itself. Like the word sounds like tintabulation is another good one.
What's that?
Tintabulation. It is the kind of like I think it's like tapping. Tintabulation. I might be wrong with that one. Tabulation.
I still get the alliterative one. Is it
Alliterative? Like what is alliteration?
well, my understanding of it is that when like the beginnings of the word sound the same in sequence almost.
Well, it's not just always the beginnings of the words, it could also be the word, like within the words.
Within the word.
Yes.
There are different types of alliteration?
Of course, there's many different types of rhymes,
I
different types of alliteration.
I figured that was a different type of, a different word entirely. Like post-alliteration or something. I don't know. Are we looking up the word?
Tintinabulation. A ringing or tinkling sound.
Ah. Like,
So it was not tapping, it's ringing.
You know what word I don't know how to say?
What? Peculiar?
Peculiar.
Peculiar? Peculiar? If you think about any word for long enough, you will think that it is ridiculous to say it the way that it is.
Peculiar.
Why do we even have K's in front of words anymore?
Wait, what word was I thinking of? What was the prompt?
Alliteration?
No.
Tintabulation.
What word I don't know how to say?
Peculiar.
Dang it, you threw it out of my head. No, I'll think of it. Dang it.
What's some of the other ones that are good? Onomatopoeia. That's another good one.
I learned that one in preschool because some older kid was like, "I know this word that you can't say."
These are just cool sounding words.
You made me lose my word.
Sorry. That means you're getting older like me.
Maybe.
I rode today.
What'd you do?
I rode
Rode.
on the rowing machine.
Oh. I thought you meant like a lawnmower.
No, I don't do anything with a lawnmower. I don't really have much of a lawn.
Or a bike. I don't know. It would be any sort of verb that you ride, not row. Right? To ride, not to row. That's what I thought you said. I thought you rode upon.
Oh no, I rode like ROWED.
Rowed.
I rowed. I have an idea of what we should talk about today, unless you have another idea.
Wait, what was that quote I told you?
To be or not to be, that is the question.
No.
To suffer the slings and arrows of misfortune.
For whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of unbelief.
Yes, you know it better than I.
Or to take arms against the sea of troubles.
Oh, there he goes, look at this, people, he's got an education.
To die, to sleep no more. And by sleep to say we end the heartache of the natural, 1,000 natural shocks the flesh is heir to. As a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep perchance to dream. Hey, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come.
Were you in the play? Were you Hamlet?
No.
No, you just decided to memorize that.
We had to memorize one Shakespeare passage in high school.
And that was it?
Yeah.
Oh, well done there.
That was angsty.
I'm impressed. Look at that.
Right off the top.
For all the time that I spent studying literature, I don't think I ever memorized a single thing.
I mean, it's not worth it.
No, it's awesome. No, it's totally awesome.
It's a party trick.
I'm impressed. I'm like, that's awesome.
40 lines, that's what you get.
That's because I was never forced to recite anything.
I was in a play once in 5th grade.
Yeah.
I was the sheriff of Nottingham.
Sure. That's a bad guy.
Yeah. I was the only one who could project their voice loud enough.
I always think of, when I think of the sheriff of Nottingham, I think of The Disney cartoon?
Yeah.
Make sure we have video and sound here. Let's see if we do. We should. I just want to double check because we did that little weird thing. Burp. No,
Talk
wait,
about
what's going
freedom
on?
today. Have you read The Five Rings?
Like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing something online. I don't know.
I got a recommendation
You got a recommendation for what?
to read that book.
The Five Rings?
Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
I read it a long time ago. It's not that long.
Yeah. And
It's one of those books, I think, and I think this is true a lot of kind of like Eastern philosophy. Well, not even just Eastern, but Western philosophy tends to be very long-winded, whereas Eastern philosophy tends to be very short-winded, right?
Yeah,
and
but
so
so
if you just try to read it without like, if you just read it to read it, like I'm going to read all the words on the page, it's very short.
Yeah.
But if you have to stop and you have to like really think about each and every word.
It's not even that. It's almost like
You have to ponder it.
it's like you read it and you're like, oh great, that's pretty, and then you go and live life, and then you go back and read it again. You're like, that makes sense, and then the rest of it also doesn't make sense. And you go and live more life, and you come back and you're like, oh yeah, that's valid. Those are good ideas. Oh. Well, I don't know. What should we talk about?
I was going to talk about.
Being or not being?
No, that's very different. I was going to talk about routines.
Routines. That's
Habits.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking that routines can be awesome,
Mm-hmm.
they can be awful,
Mm-hmm.
or they can be like very,
In between?
they can be, what's the word I'm thinking of? They can be not terrible, but they can actually kind of be stifling in a way. So it's not like whether routine is good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a routine is a tool,
Yeah.
right? And so it's all about like how you use it,
Mm-hmm.
how you. I think we can all diagnose a kind of routine. I think most people have a routine, whether they're conscious of one or not. Just in terms of like,
Eating.
you know, sometimes it's a function of like, what do you do for a living, right? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you have a routine based. I mean, most people I think have a routine based around their work schedule or their kids' schedule or
Really?
whatever. Sure.
I thought most people base.
If you have kids,
I would say like.
if you have kids, then your schedule is kind of based on their schedule.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, within that, right? Most people I think have to go to work, and you know, if they have a spouse or a kid or kids, you know, or whatever it is, they have clients, they have to build their routines or their schedules around those obligations or those people or those responsibilities, right?
Yeah. That's fun.
But there's, you know, part of the routine you have a lot of freedom within. Even if you had a structure of your day where you said, well, I usually have to wake up around whatever time, and then maybe I eat, I don't eat. Maybe some people like breakfast, they don't, whatever they eat, or not. And then maybe they do something like go to work or work out or whatever it is. My wife wakes up at like 6 a.m. and works out,
Yeah.
or earlier and works out because she wants to work out and she does it in the mornings. That's her routine. That is a good routine, I would say. But I think sometimes the routines, even if they start off good, can wind up being kind of stifling in the sense that, you know, if you do the same thing all the time, your body adapts to it. And you actually start like detraining in a way or overtraining. I don't know what the right word is. You know what I mean? Like if I ran 5 miles every morning, I think most people would be like, that's great, that's awesome. But that could also be a lot of wear and tear on your body.
Yeah.
Or even if you don't have a lot of wear and tear, you're just doing 5 miles every day, there's a point of diminishing returns. Your body at some point will adapt. And doing that 5 miles, which used to be awesome, after 10 years of just doing 5 miles, it's probably not, you're not really getting much out of it after a point, right?
So we're talking about muscle confusion here?
No, I mean, I'm using that as just a common example. I think there's also routines that we fall into in terms of how we think about things.
Metaphorical muscle confusion?
If your brain is a muscle,
Yeah.
But you know, it goes, we talked about like how do you train and like how do you set goals, and I think, you know, the routine that you make for yourself, if you can control it, needs to be kind of mindful of your goals and your limitations and your strengths or what have you, right? It's not a one size fits all the time type of proposition.
Mm-hmm.
Things have to change. And if you want to continue, I feel myself like I get a certain, I get a level of progress or reward from a routine, and then at some point it gets boring, and then I totally backslide, and I switch up my routine to something that's a terrible routine, like going to, for a while, I think I was here a lot, and so I would wind up going for snacks over at the gas station.
That's the best place to get
And
snacks.
that's a terrible routine.
It's
like
great,
every day, you know, the guys would be like, "What's up?" You know, like
Yeah.
we just got a new shipment of the ho-hos or whatever the heck I was eating.
Ho-hos.
Oh, I love ho-hos.
You gotta eat. There's good gas
No,
stations.
there's no good gas station.
There's good gas stations.
What is it? That
Alright,
moldy
hey,
banana in
hey, if it fits your macros, you can eat whatever you want, right? And B, they've got like peanuts and trail mix and
Yeah, those are bad for you. Those are bad for you.
milk.
I mean, the milk is bad. I've actually gotten milk there once. It was bad milk.
Yeah.
Milk is not the place, or
Yeah,
gas stations are not the place you
aren't
want to buy
the
your milk.
greatest place, but usually like, you know, pick up like a protein shake or something and some crackers or something like, you know.
Those are not.
You don't-
Well, let me tell you something.
just
I
because
didn't
you
get a
go-
routine built around going over there and getting crackers. I built a routine going over there and getting like.
See, that's your issue. You don't
Yes.
have to, just because you don't have the best option doesn't mean you have to default
That's
to the
true.
worst.
That is true.
Right? If your only source of food is a gas station because you got class coming up, then you go to the gas station and get the least disgusting thing possible.
I agree.
Unless you want to get something gross. You know, I don't know. You don't have to eat ho-hos.
The problem is not that is I mean, there is a big enough problem in eating the ho-hos. The problem is in the routine of eating the ho-hos. If you have a ho-ho once every couple months, it's not going to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the store and you get a ho-ho every day, that becomes a problem. That becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You know, over the long term.
Well, you gotta ask yourself why you're getting the ho-hos. Like, why have you established this habit
Yes,
over the
that's a
long
good
term?
question. Why am I in this habit? Like, this thing that always struck me was watching television. You know, there's an amount of, I always got frustrated with watching TV, although I love TV, of like, you are totally wasting your life. You're totally, like, television is a total waste of
But
life.
how else am I supposed to know how to think and feel about things?
Well, exactly. Like, no, the television's the wrong place to go figure those things out.
It's a pretty like common
There are
ground.
some good things. There are some good things on TV, I will say. Like, I like the Nature Channel. That's cool. PBS, all right. You know, I love documentaries. But for the most part, like going home and like, it's one of those things. Like, is a sitcom bad? Is it like sitting down and like turning off your brain for like a half hour or an hour once in a while? Is it a bad thing? No, it's totally cool, right?
Uh-huh.
You want to go. You want to be entertained. You have a hard day at work. You're stressed out. You just want to sit down and like watch.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Whatever the show is, whatever the throwaway show. But that's a ho-ho, right? That show is a ho-ho. It's you get nothing from it. You get nothing.
That's not true. There's not. You get something from ho-hos. There is a time and a place for ho-hos.
Yes.
There is not nothing in ho-hos.
Okay, so yeah,
If
so you get that mental sugar rush,
Yeah,
right?
if
You get that.
But if you're consuming nothing but ho-hos,
It's bad.
bad.
But so this is the thing, right? I'm not saying like, oh, TV is always bad and this and that. I'm saying like,
Be aware.
if you get into the routine, right? So this is what I think about because now I'm like having my midlife crisis, right? Like I'm 50 years old. And you start to think about like, well, how much time have I really spent on this planet in a productive fashion that I can look back and say, yeah, I'm glad that I was, you know.
Yeah, but
And it's like years of watching crap.
yeah, but also like, is productivity the meaning of life? Like, isn't there
Well,
some room
when
for
you
just
when you
like,
look back over your life
uh-huh.
and you survey what you have done and not done,
Uh-huh.
the things, the plans, the dreams
How do
that
you
you
look
had.
at what you haven't done? It's crazy.
Well, you kind of look at the things maybe you wanted to do and you haven't done.
What if I wanted to watch TV?
I mean, look, live the dream. You know, live the dream then. But you get a sense of like, okay, you know, this is really time like if you sit all the time and just do whatever it is, you know, you have to, I think it doesn't ever seem in the moment that it's such a bad thing, right? If I spend 800 hours playing Red Dead Redemption or what's the other one? Grand Theft Auto. Like, I'm having a good time, right? I'm using my brain because I have to do brain things in order to plan my heists.
You're executing functions.
I'm doing something. It's not, I'd say that video games are actually better than TV because at least you're thinking in some way.
Yeah.
But that's like saying that a hot dog is more nutritious than a ho-ho.
It is.
Well, it is, but it's still terrible for you.
No, but like,
if you eat it all the time, like if that's what you do.
time and place.
You know, so that's what I'm saying, routine, right? Like the routine is what kills you, or the habit, right? And I'm not criticizing from the place of like superiority, like, oh, look at me, I've been so productive my whole life, but on the contrary, like totally, you know, my Facebook usage is not something that I'm proud of.
But you inspire so many people to be angry.
To hate, yeah, to hate me and be annoyed with me. I had, maybe I shouldn't get into it, but an interesting interaction with somebody. You can never really tell, like the twists and turns of a person.
What do you mean?
I posted something about how they're going to impeach Trump for inciting the riot, right? And somebody who will remain nameless was like, no, those people showed up. He didn't incite them. They showed up to do what they were going to do. Regardless of whatever. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. At least this is what I understand that this person was saying.
Was it the person that I think it is?
I don't know who you're thinking of. I don't think it's anybody you know. We've never talked about this person before.
No.
But their point was, I think, if I understand them, was like Trump didn't incite them. They came ready to do what they were going to do.
Yeah.
Maybe he said a few words that they agreed with, but they were going to go. And then the person was like, and they were let inside anyway. Like, look at the videos of people. And there, you know, there are videos of people opening the door and stepping aside and, you know, because they don't want to get murdered by the mob. So anyway, I was like, this kind of conspiratorial thinking type of thing. But I don't disagree with the idea that they were let in, or not let in, but that some people came with a bad intent, regardless of whatever was said in the speech. But I'm like, where is this person? I don't understand where this person, are they conspiracy theorists? Are they, like, where are they coming from? And then today there was a separate post the person made about there are all these problems in the world, like, you know, child slavery and all this other crazy stuff, starvation. And, you know, everybody is now like worried about transgender athletes in girls' high school sports, right? And the clear import was like, this is not really a problem in the grand scheme of things. And I was like, I really am confused by you now, because I can't tell if you're like a Trump apologist, if you are, I mean, like, I don't know where you are.
Me neither.
It's very odd.
Yeah.
It's very, I mean, I was just like, this person's kind of all over the place. I can't, but I like them more because of this.
Why?
Because I kind of like the.
But if you don't understand what his meaning was, then like.
You're assuming it's a date, but.
Well, whatever.
I am, you know, like, this is the thing, it's confusing.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm like, where are you coming out here? I'm not sure.
You should enjoy like
I like that.
clear communication.
You know where I'm at. I'm like 100% on one side.
Yeah. Pretty clearly.
Pretty clearly. But I enjoy the person that's kind of like, I can't make heads or tails of them. Anyway, I don't know why. It's like talking about routine, like the routine of like, we usually get into this kind of like back and forth with people, and we have a routine idea of like where people stand. This person is throwing me for a loop. But I think that it's the same could be said when you switch up your routines, right? Like your everyday life, routines of your everyday life.
Should switch up.
It kind of, you know, that little unbalancing I think is good for you, right?
I like to have like 3 things in my life at one time. Like,
the rule of 3?
Yeah, like 3 things that you keep or you do consistently, like every day. Like one of those things for me.
Brush your teeth?
No, like more
Make
than
your
that.
bed?
Like something, I mean, maybe cleaning could be one of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like some sort of activity or hobby that like brings you closer to yourself.
Closer to yourself. Okay, yeah. Me time.
Yeah. I think
Exercise.
exercise is good.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, art, music.
There you go.
And like having those 3 things, like just for yourself, I think is important. I don't know. If you have a family, obviously you should like prioritize like your job and your family's needs, and then like fit those things in and be consistent with them. But I mean, for me, since I have neither of those, like,
You have a family.
yeah, but I don't,
You actually
I'm
spend
not,
more time
I'm not responsible
with babies than most married men do.
I'm not responsible for them though, and that's one of my things now, right? Like if I have free time and I feel like I can help, that's the thing I'll do. Like, I don't know. But you try and do them like every day, even if it's just a little bit, like 10 minutes, just every day.
I think that's good.
And yeah, and then you get good at things, and then eventually you'll be able to do something that you didn't think you could do, and then you get that weird sense of
Accomplishment.
yeah, that's
Success.
yeah, it's weird.
Achievement.
It's weird, but
It's amazing what happens when you work hard and consistently.
not. I wouldn't say hard.
Well, hard in terms of like you are consistent.
Consistent. I don't like working hard too much. Like at the appropriate time, at the appropriate place, with the appropriate people.
Work smart.
But like, I don't like people who only work smart too. Like it should be a good mix, and I don't know. There should be a flow. Like you work hard, and then you take a little time off. And you work hard, and then take a little time with like all the things.
I think you gotta work as hard as possible all the time. There's enough time to rest when you're dead.
That sounds awful. I don't know. But I mean, that
You can sleep
there are times when that's appropriate too.
always. When you're alive, that's when
No.
that's appropriate.
You know, you have those phases in your life, but you can't do that forever.
No, because you're gonna die because you need to sleep. At some point you burn yourself out and you just pass out and
Yeah.
have a heart attack.
Or people like, if they push themselves too hard, they turn to like coping mechanisms.
Yes,
To keep-
drugs,
Drugs is a good one.
Yeah.
That works.
alcohol.
Alcohol is a good one. That works too.
Uh,
They both have good bad consequences.
yes, jail.
That too. That's pretty bad. That's not the worst one though.
Maybe not,
Yeah.
but it is pretty bad. They have that for lawyers. Lawyers have a very high rate of drug addiction and adultery and what was the other one? Suicide. Very high rates. It's an exceptionally stressful job,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's weird.
lawyers, in general, don't like making mistakes, and so when they do make mistakes, they tend to
Internalize it.
do something bad to themselves. Not tend to, but they just have a high rate of.
Yeah.
Then I mean, it's still not huge, right? It's not like
Yeah.
a million lawyers jump off a bridge every year, which some people would insert their joke here.
The implication is that would be a good thing.
What? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't know.
Well, some lawyers.
But it's weird because there's
Terrible
this
lawyers.
feeling that like if you aren't working hard all the time, like you should be kind of guilty.
You're lazy.
Yeah.
You don't deserve to be successful because you're lazy. You don't work hard.
Like if you don't work
Pretty
yourself
much-
to
it's
the
pretty
bone,
much true.
you don't deserve even like, the basic standard of living almost.
Probably, yeah. You should be in prison in a solitary confinement cell because you're not worthwhile.
You gotta pump the GDP up. Pump it way up. Can we talk about for-profit prisons?
For-profit prisons.
Yeah, like
Why do you want to talk? Are we done with routine? We've agreed routines are.
routines are good. Let's talk about how bullshit. I don't know. That was just the vibe I was getting there.
You want to switch over to politics and for-profit prisons? Okay, go for it.
It's bad.
Why?
I don't know.
It's the free market. They're actually, why should taxpayers, actually you would save more money if you allow, the taxpayer money, if you allow corporations to run prisons like a business.
Why would you want to incentivize imprisoning people?
I'm not incentivizing that. I want to, that may be a downstream side effect,
What?
whatever incentivizing imprisoning people. What I really am interested in is just saving the taxpayer money. That's what I'm really about, Kevin.
Is that really the argument? For-profit prisons save the
Yes, that is 100% the argument.
weird.
No one argues, oh, we want to incentivize people to.
Is that what prisons are for, though?
What?
Saving the taxpayers' money?
No, but the idea is that, I don't agree with this idea, but the idea is that we will save taxpayer money by, delegating this responsibility to a corporation, which can do it for cheaper than a government institution, which is always more inefficient than corporate institutions.
Yeah.
Again, these are like huge premises that are not true, right? They're huge generalities.
Yeah.
That and for your incentivizing, to your point, there were these judges in Pennsylvania who were,
I remember that.
sentencing kids, like juveniles, to serious prison time and getting kickbacks from the companies for it. And they all went to prison. These judges went to prison for like 22 of them, I think. And they went to prison for 20 years. But I think you do that, you should just go forever. They may take you, do China style and just shoot you, take you in the back. That's pretty horrific stuff. I think that.
That's a gross misuse of power.
What? What? Putting kids in prison?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Shooting the people who are guilty of that? No, I don't think that's a gross misuse of power at all.
That's too much.
What?
I don't know. I don't like.
I think what they should do is they should line up all those sentences that they imprison those kids, right? And they say, well, we're going to let those kids out, obviously, but the second is you're going to serve that time. You're going to do that whole stretch of time because that's what you did. And if that so happens to be the rest of your natural life, then so be it. You'll be in jail for the rest of your life. You're going to serve the term, and you're going to pay back all that money.
No individual should profit from someone else's imprisonment.
I 100% agree.
That should be the main argument.
I agree. Except when the people really deserve it. What about those people?
What do you mean?
What about the serial killers and the rapists and
I'm
the child molesters?
I'm not saying don't imprison people. I'm saying an individual who lives.
But what I'm saying is I don't mind paying that person extra money to make that other person's, that guilty person's life extra miserable.
An individual should not profit off.
Yeah, but they kind of do, right? Even in a guards, prison guards, they profit. They make their living off of.
Different, that job is necessary for the whole system to work, right? Just because a person profits off.
If we just build the walls high enough,
we
don't need guards anymore.
It's a fine line, but at least if there is any sort of money generated into that system, it can go back into improving the system as opposed to being removed from the system entirely by individuals profiting off of the system.
I can see you have no experience in actual
life
of what prisons are actually like.
Oh, what do you mean?
In the sense of the idea that whatever income or money is coming into the system is there to make the system better. Generally not.
In theory, though, at least, right? And why would they make? They wouldn't. They would. They could.
They totally make them worse.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
On the same theory too, right? So in New York, you had the Rockefeller drug laws, right? Where it was essentially hey, why are we trying to rehabilitate these criminals, right? And giving them things like educations and drug treatment and some of these things. And now this has swung back a little bit to the other side now, but basically it's you're here to do time. And so we're going to take away all those nice things and we're going to save money while we do it. So you're getting your just desserts and we're saving money. Mm-hmm. And of course those people eventually all leave.
Yeah.
And then they just reoffend, right? Because they're
criminals.
Now they don't have an option, right? It's
they're criminals. At that point,
we've said, this is going to be your fate
go.
now. And then we make it super hard for them to do anything once they're out, right? Which, in some cases, it should be super hard for them, right? In some cases.
Violent crime.
But, the whole thing where, I was always puzzled, why can't, fine, if you've been convicted of, felony voting fraud, then yes, you should not be allowed to vote, right? You're probably okay to, prohibit. Yeah. But if you were, I don't know, anything else, right? Why aren't you allowed to vote? I don't understand what the connection is.
I feel once you serve your time, you've paid back what you owe the community, and you should get your rights back.
Well,
some of them. The voting one for sure.
There's a public face of that, right? We say the public or the government would say, you need to serve this time to pay back your debt. But then also sometimes they actually have an actual monetary debt that they owe to some victims.
They could pay that.
And that's, I think
all the debts.
Whatever it is.
Once you finish up whatever your program is, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
It seems like a way to suppress, people from voting.
Well, that was one of the things that they, I think people thought when, there was this huge uptick in private prisons under Trump. Not that this was the first time they've ever been used, but it was also about the same time that, we needed a lot more space for illegal immigrants and asylum seekers, right? And so those things kind of dovetailed with each other. And the prison stock went like through the roof. And you have guys like, Jeff Sessions and some of the other Republican, and probably some Democrats too, to be sure. Everybody likes to make money. I mean, I don't think I've always been of the opinion that, corruption and hypocrisy is not a Republican monopoly, right? I mean, certainly in New York State, political corruption is an equal opportunity, doesn't really know any bounds of, any political bounds, or political party bounds. The Democratic Party in New York was like rotten to the core, for sure. Republican Party is pretty terrible too. It won't make it better.
It all sounds great.
It's all awful.
What do you think about the idea that, what do they say? What supply creates demand, right?
No.
No, not in this case.
I don't think that's true.
I feel like
Demand for what, right? If you have a supply of criminals that need to be housed, then you have a demand for prisons.
If you have an uptick in criminals, right?
Yes.
You build the prisons in order to fill and accommodate the uptick.
Yes.
Then the rate of incarceration goes down, but you still have for-profit prisons that have people who need to feed their families.
That's true.
And
their stock will go down.
They're just ordinary citizens like you and me trying to make a living.
That's true.
And they need to.
That's often very true.
They need to fill those beds up.
In fact, the guards in those prisons are actually, in many instances, they're not part of a union, right? They don't have any, workplace protections. They're not, they can be exploited too. The private prison guards, the whole idea of giving it to the private company is that they're gonna do it for cheaper. As soon as you have a union, that ruins the whole thing.
Weird.
But no, I don't want to say that all private prisons are always terrible, but it's one of those things people always say, like, you should run government like a business. No, there are two different things. The purpose of government is not to make money. That is the purpose of a business. The purpose of a business is to make money. That is its whole reason of being.
I thought that was the purpose of living.
Making money?
Yeah.
Yes, that
and then starting a business is an extension.
No, I would say it can be look, whatever you want, but government is government, and as bad as it could be, it should probably making it be like a business is probably not going to make it any better.
Yeah.
It's probably going to make it worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take some principles, but as long as you keep in mind that the government is there for the benefit of its
Wasn't there
citizens.
like a document somewhere that outlines what government is for, at least for America?
No, that's a document that says what government is not for.
Oh, that's probably more important.
And in New York State, it's similar to other state that I really have an understanding of the Constitution. It's all essentially like a list of things, of prohibitions that the government cannot do. It's like, if you read it, it's actually, it reads like all the terrible things that a government could ever do.
Yeah.
That it should be prohibited from doing. It's just like one long list of like, no,
That's how
you
most
shall not
laws
do
are
this.
made, though, right?
I mean, the U.S. Constitution kind of has some structure to it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, we're laying out but then there's like the Bill of Rights where they're like, no. It's like 10 Commandments. You shall not, you shall not, you shall not.
Yeah.
Except for some of the other things.
Does the New York State Constitution say that all men are created equal, or all free men are created equal?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it. I'm sure it hasn't been changed in a while. In New York, they have this provision where you can trigger and have like a constitutional convention.
Really?
Every so often, like every 20 years or something, there's like a triggering.
They just get together and look at it?
Well, but because people, Constitutions should change. right? Things change. 20 years, 40 years, 60 years. Society
Oh, you're
changes.
like editing it.
So you go in and you're like, okay, this didn't work out so well, right? Like we didn't think we had this, or maybe we thought that this was going to do that and it didn't do that, so let's change it to what we know, or whatever it is, you adjust it, right?
Do you write it on a new piece of paper? Or do you get like
No,
a
you
piece
kind of cross
parchment?
out the original document and
You just cross it out, put your initials and the date, and then
that's it. Yeah, and you kind of attach it, extra sheets go behind it.
some sticky notes, post-it notes.
They do have things where they, where when, I don't know if they do this, I'm sure they do this with the Constitution too, but, you know, when they pass a new law, sometimes the law, you know, like basically deletes old law. And there are pages of thing where they just strike out the old law, right? The bill, the actual bill, before it gets codified, they'll actually go through and say, take out all this stuff.
Yeah.
Not always, but
And
often.
they just go through
And they just strike out, obviously it's on a computer, but you know, they strike it out and then they have the new section, they say put this here, put that there, put this in this section, and then sometimes they recodify the whole
yeah,
thing.
but then do they like print it out on a new piece of
Yeah,
parchment?
it's on, you don't
And
have
it's
to like be like, oh, here's 50 pages of stuff that's been,
some tablets.
you know, deleted. Yeah, stone tablets.
That'd be nice.
But it would be nice, I think, that the US Constitution should have like, we should have a convention every 20, 25 years and be like, okay, now we're gonna talk about this stuff and let's fix
That
it.
would be such a shit show.
It's a shit show already.
Yeah, but no one would. We would end up with two different countries. If
We
if
have
that,
two different countries.
Yeah, but like that would probably actually trigger some sort of civil war. I think so.
You know, I think, you know, this is, I don't know if I really think this, but it's an attractive theory that the Civil War never actually ended.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that, I mean, yes, it ended formally,
Yeah.
right? Like there were,
Yeah.
Constitution was amended and,
Yeah.
you know, other people's constitutions were amended too, but if you look at after Reconstruction or during Reconstruction, you know, the federal government essentially was like, under Andrew Johnson and Grant, were like, okay, you know, maybe more Johnson than Grant, but, you know, they were basically like much more tolerant of, you know, Southern persecution of African Americans, you know.
Like a little give and take sort of
I
situation.
mean, you look at the Civil Rights era where people, you know, like black kids couldn't go to the same schools, like Jim Crow South,
Yeah.
right? Segregation was okay, you know,
So it was like
despite
almost
the Equal Protection Clause.
the idea that the Civil War ended, but with like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It was like, it was that there weren't troops shooting at each other anymore,
Yeah.
but there was, it's like the Cold War. Think of it as, you know, after World War II, we all stopped essentially shooting at each other, right? But then we had the Cold War, where we would have these battles between proxy countries, you know?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be a direct confrontation always, but it was essentially, you know, we knew, okay, Soviets were behind Cuba, China was behind Vietnam, you know, like, and Korea, right? I mean, okay, we weren't in a direct conflict. But, you know, like Afghanistan, the Russians went to Afghanistan and we like gave all the weapons to the Afghans and said, hey, here you go, you need some bullets and guns?
Is it Al-Qaeda that we gave these to?
No, that was later.
That was later. Okay.
That was later.
You're talking about Gulf?
No, I'm talking about Afghanistan. When the Russians invaded Afghanistan
Yeah.
to support their government, their proxy government.
Yeah.
And we said the Taliban didn't exist yet,
Taliban, that's what I was thinking of.
right? No, the Taliban actually, you know, the I can't even say that, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying about
Yeah,
the Afghan tribes,
Yes.
the tribes, we armed them,
yeah.
and we gave them support, monetary and intelligence and
Weapons?
military, and after a while they got really good at that shit,
Yeah.
right? And then
That was
after the
Osama.
Russians left, and then
Wasn't that Osama? That was Osama?
no, Osama is a Saudi.
Oh.
He's Al Qaeda. Taliban is Mullah Omar.
What year are you talking about?
2001 was 9/11,
Yeah.
right? So
Before that.
it was before 9/11,
Yeah.
right? But the Russians, when I was a kid, the Russians invaded Afghanistan at some point in the 70s, or maybe early 80s,
Yeah, for the opium.
right? I don't think it was for the opium. Maybe it could have been, I don't know. And then we gave them arms and trained them, right? And then the Russians eventually pulled out,
Yeah.
right? And then you had the Afghan kind of like good guys, right? Meaning like they, you know,
The
they
people
were our
doing
guys.
business with us.
And then you had the Taliban.
The people not doing business
They did
with
not
us.
like us.
The people who wanted
But the Taliban were essentially reacting, my understanding is, to like our good guys were all terrible people, actually.
Yeah, aren't the Taliban like not?
They're like religious fundamentalists. They're terrible. I mean, only in a, that's actually the best proof of how terrible. I forget what it was. The alliance. It was something like the alliance.
What alliance?
The Taliban, not the Taliban, but there was the Northern Alliance. That's what it was called in Afghanistan. And there's no better, because the Taliban, my understanding, were like kind of popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the warlords in the Northern Alliance were not like good people, right? I mean, it's all a mess, right? But anyway, my whole thing was, what was my whole thing?
I don't know. I got sidetracked.
You just totally sidetracked me there.
Because I'm thinking, I can't tell I can't remember if it was the Taliban or Al Qaeda.
That what?
That like we directly gave like weapons and training to, and like Osama.
Well, if you go back far enough,
in the.
I don't think. Well, I'm trying to think if I don't believe that we ever gave weapons directly to Al Qaeda, because the whole purpose, the whole reason that Al Qaeda exists, is to expel Americans from Saudi Arabia. From the yes.
Okay. What about the Taliban?
No, the Taliban were just like religious fanatics in Afghanistan.
Different.
I mean, when Bin Laden left, so when he was expelled from.
Who was Bin Laden associated with?
Bin Laden's Al Qaeda.
Al Qaeda. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
So then he went to Afghanistan for his training camps, and the Taliban were like, okay, you can work because he had money and connections, right?
Interesting. Weird. I don't know, for some reason I have the story in my head that we worked with them, and something about like, he was on dialysis for a time and we knew about it.
He may have been, yeah, that may have been true. There was a whole book, I wish I could remember, I read part of it. I don't think I ever read the whole thing. But it was essentially like, there was the guy who was in charge of tracking the Taliban and the CIA.
Mhm.
Not Taliban, Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda. He essentially published.
That was a sniper guy, right? No, different guy. Sorry.
No, and this is a CIA case officer. I don't think he ever,
Okay.
maybe he did, maybe he was out shooting people, but it was essentially like all the information.
Yeah.
And it was essentially like talking about, what was the history and motivation of Al Qaeda?
Uh-huh.
It's very interesting. I'll find out
What was
what
it?
it was called.
How much of it was
Opium. Zero. There was
Zero?
nothing about opium.
Really?
No.
I was
I don't know why you're so obsessed
Well,
with
I
opium.
actually had a conversation with a friend of mine who is Iranian. Yeah, and she for some reason brought up like the opium trade in like Afghanistan, and she was like, yeah.
I mean, there is a big trade of opium in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
For sure. Or
like
poppies or whatever.
like that. Yeah, poppy. Yeah, the resin and stuff. But yeah, I guess her idea that she gave me and told to me, and that I haven't yet internalized, but I'm playing with it, is that like control of that trade in that mountainous area, because it's so easy to grow the poppies, is maybe a good reason why there was extended conflict there.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Drugs.
Drugs
A lot of people like to.
I mean,
to
if
buy
you're
and sell them.
if you're a Afghan warlord and your primary source of income is the poppy harvest,
I think it's not.
you're
it's not
probably
it's not-
going to fight over it.
It's not like warlords. It's like people. Like just regular people, and then they grow it, and then they sell it to the people who will then process it.
Yeah, the warlords.
The people who I think they sell it to would be the warlords, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Who control the whole area? Yeah.
Grown by families.
I don't think it's like
Grown by people.
just people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, warlords who control
No.
everything. It's like a peasant society. It's like a feudal society.
Yeah.
And peasants don't have any rights.
I
If you
would-
don't grow it, I kill you.
I don't think it's.
And then someone else will come in and
I
grow.
don't know if it's like that. It might be. I don't know. She didn't make it seem like that. It seemed more like a family.
I'm sure it's very family. It's a family-oriented business. It's kind of like, the Mars family makes candy.
People have been
whatever.
growing poppies since before America has existed. So
That's true.
it's,
That is true. Oh.
it's been around longer than freedom.
Freedom's not been around for very long, I don't think.
I know.
What?
Nothing. I don't know.
Oh, freedom isn't free, Kevin.
Did you like my freedom quote? Can we talk about it?
What's your freedom quote?
Freedom isn't the ability to make choices, it's the ability to create choices. I like that a lot.
Example.
Jiu-Jitsu, right? If you're rolling with a high-level black belt and you're a white belt, and he lets you do stuff, right? He's letting you choose.
What if you're a
options.
2-strip purple belt and you're
Whatever.
rolling with a 2-strip white belt?
Whatever, right? The person you're rolling with is better than you, and he's letting you move. You're not really free, right? You're like trapped within the choices that he is making, or
Yes.
they, that person. Versus being the black belt in that situation, like you're making choices, but you're creating options in that situation, and you're in control.
Yeah, but aren't you
of,
trapped by the whole doctrine or you know, the rules of jiu-jitsu?
a little bit. You're
Yeah.
constrained by them,
There you
for
go.
sure. A little bit.
So if there's no such thing as freedom, it's an illusion.
Well,
You're just doing what Elia Gracie told you to do.
you did have the option to play the game, so that's cool. Unless like you're a kid.
The only way to win is to not play the game. Do you know who said that?
Anyway.
Joshua in War Games. Yeah, look it up.
Oh, I saw that movie. It's a bad movie.
It's a great movie. What? Shut up.
Anyway.
That was like one of the best movies ever. That's back when you could hack a supercomputer. You could hack
With a whistle.
NORAD with a modem.
I had a whistle.
That was totally believable.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to play a game?
Bad.
That's a bad impression. That's a great movie. Did they ever remake that movie? I think they did.
Yeah, they did. That was also bad.
The first one was awesome, okay?
I'm
If you
sure
were in the
it blew
80s,
your mind.
in the 80s, it was awesome. Like every kid wanted a modem at that point.
Uh-huh.
They're like, wow, could I really almost start a nuclear war at home with my Commodore 64?
If only.
Based on a true story.
Oh yeah, it was when I.
No, I don't think it was.
There was a hacker person who did something, not like nuclear codes, but there was a famous guy who would
You know what's funny is that
plug into the telephone. and hack.
supposedly the U.S. nuclear infrastructure is essentially still in the same state, you know, in the 1980s, which is why it can't be hacked anymore.
Yeah,
Because nobody has those phone couplers. You know, you don't have a phone anymore to put into the.
that's a term that like people who are really big on security use. I don't know what the term is, but it's like using old machines because it's like basically no one studies how to break into them anymore.
Yeah.
Like you just use really old stuff. Is that your secret?
Yeah. Just be old. I'm just old.
It's like, wow, I haven't seen that technique in years.
I think there's something to that actually.
Yeah,
There is something to digging up those old techniques or those old things.
cross collar choke.
I mean,
out of nowhere. You never expected it.
there was the last tournament I was in, the guy when he was passing my guard, he actually went for a cross choke,
Yeah,
and it threw me.
it's weird.
It totally threw me. I was like, what is happening here? And you have to, respect that. So
Wait, he was in your guard?
no, so what happened was I pulled, but I pulled like a little half guard.
Yeah.
And I was gonna try to like do like a little lapel behind the leg. And then he was doing a knee cut, but he was lefty. I didn't realize he was lefty. So instead of going to his right, or whatever, he did the opposite.
Yeah.
And threw me for another loop there. And then as I'm kind of like doing this with my hand, like putting his lapel over my other hand, my neck is totally,
Yeah.
and he's just like that. And I had to defend that. So he wound up passing my guard.
Yeah.
Both because he went the opposite direction than I expected, and because he's trying to cross choke me, and I didn't really.
Two things you didn't expect.
At the same time,
Yeah.
I did wind up sweeping him at the very end,
Yeah.
but it was too late. He'd already.
You didn't get the 3 seconds?
He had already. What did he do? I think he had already gotten 2 for the pass. I may have put him back in half guard. I think he may have passed again. So he may have put knee on belly or something. I think he put knee on belly.
Yeah.
Got 2. So he was up 4, and so then I think I came up with like maybe 30 seconds left or something, and then I tried to go crazy to pass the guard, and I couldn't. I should have just sat on the footlock, but whatever. And then he swept me and almost took my back, but that's because I was in desperation mode. But it was just an example of like,
Yeah. Just go for it.
just choke him.
He'll never think of this.
I mean, he took me by surprise. I mean, it wasn't anything, nothing fancy. It's just in the moment. I don't get a lot of people trying to cross. How many people try to cross choke you anymore?
A couple.
That used to be every roll. Every roll was
It's
like,
the first thing
that was it.
collar
It was the
with.
collar, and you
But
couldn't
then-
break the grip. There were some guys that could not break it. That's it. They had the grip. That was it. You just get used to it.
The whole games were based on that person getting that grip. And
If
then
you go watch like Megaton Diaz,
Yeah.
if you see how he rolls, totally old school. He
Yeah.
wrecks everybody. yo, you think you're gonna like, especially if your master's like 4, you know, you're gonna do some De La Hiva, he is gonna cross choke you, he's gonna lapel drag you and cross choke you.
Yeah.
And you're gonna rue the day you ever heard the name Mikey Musumeci or Rafa Mendez.
Do you think Hoffa could beat him?
Yes, Rafa would murder him.
Yeah,
It wouldn't even be close.
Why would I regret ever learning Hoffa's name?
Well, I mean, if you're 50 years old or whatever the age is, and you're trying to do reverse De La Hiva,
If you're
and
50,
Megaton is like, I'm just gonna cross choke you or arm lock you like old school from my closed guard.
bad strategy.
It's, you know, what?
Bad strategy.
I mean, you're also screwed if you try to do like
Anything
old
else.
school stuff. I mean, he's just good. It has like, I think less to do with the fact that he's doing
Just pull side control. He'll never expect that.
pull side control. Well, you can't score. You can't score if I just lay down.
Is that true?
Yeah, if you just lay down, you can't score because they're not passing your guard.
No.
Yeah.
What if I just like get in front of your legs and then walk around?
Well, so there are rules about like you can't just sit, right? Like in gi, if it's a gi, you can't just sit down,
Yeah.
right? Because then you'll lose points. You know, you lose. You get a penalty,
Advantage.
and they make you stand up, and they give the other person, they give you a penalty. I don't think they give the other guy advantage.
No, it's like I thought it was. You have to make contact before
Yes.
you go down. If both
Yes.
of you go down at the same time, first person up gets the.
Well, that's the advantage. But if let's say you just come out, we both come out.
Yeah. If I just go
If
down.
I just sit down,
That's
then that's a penalty
Yes.
for you if you're sitting down.
Yeah.
But let's say I make a grip once. It doesn't have to be. It could be a grip on your belt or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like a collar.
And I just go in.
And then I just lay down sideways.
Oh, you're the one.
Like I can pull. Like I could just like here, right? Like stand up. Like let's say it's no gi. I think there's rules for no gi too. If I just do this,
Yeah. Yeah.
then
So what if I go like this? Did I just pass your
no, because
guard?
I'm not doing anything with my legs.
Yeah, but they're in between us.
It doesn't
That's
matter.
a guard.
If I just do this.
Just because
No,
we're
but you know
in-
what I do? This is what they do. So you can never get to my legs.
Stupid. I kind of like that strategy though.
But you know that's what Gordon used to do. Gordon and Gary used to do that.
Yeah. Just drop down.
In the no point, especially in the no points,
Yeah.
or the submission only, and they would just let the person,
Yeah. It makes sense.
which is humiliating when you think about it,
It's
right?
not.
Like I have such little respect for you that I want you. I just come on cross-eyed.
Nah. That's not. I wouldn't be like humiliated from that.
Really?
They have an idea. It's not enough. They're playing with the game. It's a weird meta thing.
They want you
they're trying
to
to get in
mount
your
on
head.
top them.
They're trying to get into your head. They're not going to get into my head, and it's fine. I'll mount anyone who wants to lay down like that, except for them probably because
That would be suicide. Mounting them is suicide. Like you might as well just give them the
North south would be the way to go, but mount would be bad on them in particular. But north south.
I can't even remember the last time I saw anybody like maintain them. Like even Gary when he goes against like heavyweights,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he just gets. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
that's why you should.
right, like Paul Harris. I think he just gets. It's like straight to the heel hook,
Yeah, it's weird, but
and they do that little flipper thing.
I wonder what's their north south response? Because you're so far away from the legs.
Well, they kind of bring their legs up,
Yeah.
and
But
then they
everyone
turn,
does that.
or they go to your back.
Everyone does that. Is that what they do?
I think so.
I haven't seen it. Anyway.
I don't think they. I mean, I don't think you can get them. I don't think I've ever. I've seen
Well, if they're just laying down.
No, I'm trying to think. Like Gordon, he'll try to go to your legs. Like if you're north south, he'll try to hook your leg and then go onto a.
He is limited. He could definitely reach.
Yeah,
It's annoying.
I think they kind of use that. They don't think of it as, and I think Craig Jones is like this too. They just want to get to your legs.
Mhm.
So like with leg locks, like the idea of like if I can hook onto your legs
Yeah.
from any position, I can work into a heel hook
Yeah.
or whatever.
And there's no way that you can put your body weight on mine without getting your legs into some sort of range.
So a lot of times I think what people do, I don't know if it's a mistake or not, but the common response is to try to turn and you reconfigure your guard, right? I try to get my legs between us, right? And so that way I can reestablish my guard. And I think what they do is instead of thinking of it as like I need to reestablish my guard, they think, oh, your legs
Yeah.
are right here,
Yeah.
right? So they're not thinking like, oh, I have to stop this.
Yeah.
They're thinking, now I have your leg.
Yeah.
Right? Your legs are coming, so, I mean, obviously it's going to be not so easy. They're very skilled at that.
Can I try it?
So if I'm here, right? Yeah. And then they are able to get their legs in one way or the other. So you got to be careful. You get that leg in the hole. There you go.
Sorry.
So once you're there, I mean, it's, right? So if I'm here, then you get this. Yeah. And so you see how I'm like off balanced? So if you're, even if we're here like this, especially if I'm up, right? And I'm coming here, yeah. Now you're into that heel hook. Now, I'm not doing a very good pass or a good attempt to keep it down, but I think that's their strategy.
Yeah. You get in reaching range.
I think that's, it's one of those things where, there's a convention.
Yeah.
And we think that there's going to be a conventional response, right? Like, oh, I'm going to get chest to chest. I'm cross-side, therefore I'm going to get chest to chest.
Yeah.
And this person is going to defend to prevent chest to chest. But they're not really, I don't think, of course it's not good for them to be chest to chest, but they're using that as more of an opportunity to get to your legs. I think it's a lot, I don't know if it's easier, but that's another pathway into the leg entanglements that I don't know that a lot of people really appreciate. You know what I mean? From the bottom.
Yeah. This is a dangerous game.
It's becoming very popular. It's becoming very popular in
No points.
even in gi, yeah. It's actually a little bit easier because you have all those grips.
Yeah.
It's not slippery anymore.
I did gi for the first time today.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Just like, you just hold on to things and then like, you just stay attached to them. You just hook onto someone's arm and it's like glue. You just you don't even have to grab. It's crazy. I don't get why Aziz doesn't like it because he would kill the gi if he brought some of those no gi stuff. Like people couldn't escape arm bars. So frictious. Frictious. It's amazing. Anyway, sorry.
No,
I just
I mean,
wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And just in case I didn't know that you could get better grips with a gi than without.
I didn't know.
Although some people are better without the gi than with.
Yeah.
But some people, I think it was the mindset too, right? Like that's a mindset thing, right? If you feel uncomfortable because you have a gi on, and you don't like either A, feeling like you're vulnerable to a cross choke or loop choke, or you have to always worry about these like collars, this piece of rope around your neck.
Yeah.
Or you don't like being gripped, right? Like sometimes you just can't break a grip.
Yeah.
And it gets very frustrating if your whole thing is to break grips.
Yeah.
Right? Like so.
Yeah. Well, if your whole thing is to break grips, then you should be appreciative of this opportunity to practice grip breaking. But
that's not how it works. If you're a wrestler and you don't like to not be able to like have that direct kind of attack,
just like
you can do great things and get people totally turned around and off balance. But if they still have a grip on you, and plus it's also very hard to do it when you have a lapel and lapels wrapped around your own leg.
You do that a lot.
That can be very frustrating for people.
Yeah.
And I think it's, to me, I think it's actually, I kind of like it. I like that idea that you are constrained in some way and you have to operate with, like without an arm or without a leg, or you know what I mean? You don't have that full freedom of movement, and you have to use your body, right? You have to use some movement. You have to use your body. You have to use. It's not just like, oh, I rip. No, that's a good skill to have. Like breaking grips is an excellent. Like that's an important skill to have.
Not getting gripped is better.
Not getting gripped is good too.
It's hard. But if you get gripped, it's probably not worth it to like.
Some people are really good at breaking grips.
Yeah.
Like really good.
But it's like they're technical at it. There's a way.
I mean, there's an art. There's an art to gripping. But I enjoy that kind of. Sometimes you're going to have an arm trapped. Sometimes you're going to have, somebody's going to be on your neck. These are things. It's like added. I think with the gi, it adds a level of complexity to grappling.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's 100% realistic in a sense, but I think it's an added. It can be an added challenge.
Yeah.
It's an equalizer.
Yeah, you get I've heard that a lot. Where like if you throw a gi in the mix, it takes a person who is smaller and more technical, and it gives them more to work with.
If you're older and fatter, then
Well,
like when we go with Elias and Laird.
Yeah, you can.
Without a gi, those guys are like all over me. With a gi, they're still all over me, but at least I can slow them down a little bit.
You like know where they are in space. You
Yeah, I mean, I have a
You
I
have
have
a
a
grip.
grip, you know, I can like hold on.
That's what it's
I have
for.
2 hands, I can make 2 grips.
Yeah, I know where you are approximately.
You know, when I don't have a gi on, then they're usually behind me, laughing at me, you know,
They're somewhere.
as I try to
like,
face them.
looking down on you.
So, and then same thing with like any kind of wrestling, right? Like, although they're really good wrestling with the gi too. They're not. It's not like you can put a hit on them and their wrestling sucks or their takedown suck.
They're really good.
They're really good. But anyway, it's not as embarrassing as when they don't have a gi on and they can just move freely as fast as they possibly can.
Can I talk about the nervousness of being
Nervous
choked?
of getting choked.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you get nervous about getting choked?
No, I just get choked a lot, and then I don't. And then, you know, like, cause the weird thing, like today I transitioned for the first time into like rolling the gi, after like a long hiatus of not. And I got choked a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Like choked out or just choked? You can have a sore throat.
No, like, you know, I got caught in things that normally don't come up in no-gi.
Yep.
And like you have that
You
adjustment.
better watch out.
period.
There may be a meme about you soon.
Maybe. But you get like that adjustment period and,
Yeah.
and then they go away. Or they
Yes.
don't, like depending on your level. But if you're worried about it, yeah, it throws you off your game. And then all of your jiu-jitsu is gonna be terrible. Except not just like, you know, the parts that are different from no-gi grappling, right?
I think that you have to, if you're always scared about anything,
Yeah.
then you're going to be bad at it. Or not as, let's not bad, but you're not going to be as good as about everything else, like you're saying,
Yeah.
right? Like I always tell the story of, you know, I used to be really, like I never wanted anybody to pass my guard, ever.
Yeah.
And I worked so hard so that this person would not pass my guard. And then when people passed my guard, I'd be totally exhausted. I'd be totally out of position. And I had a decent enough guard that I could hold the majority of the time, people wouldn't pass. So I didn't have to work on defending when somebody is past your guard.
Yeah.
And, you know, at some point I was like, this is not good for me, right? Like, I should be okay with people passing my guard.
Yeah.
You know, and then I remember it was like, I remember I was doing a lot of cardio because I was like, I just need to get in better shape so that I don't get tired when I'm playing guard if they do pass.
Yeah.
And so I used to do things like I would run with, like, you know how today everyone complains about the masks?
Yeah.
I used to run with like a mask on, you know, and I would run fast and then I'd cover up my face. So simulate when somebody passes your guard and they put they put their chest down on top of your face, right? Because I was like, I'm going to prepare myself, and I'm going to waterboard myself
Okay.
for this kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because there's actually a very specific person who I was worried about, and when he would pass, he was a big dude.
Yeah.
You know, it would basically be his large chest. That would be like. So anyway.
Well, what was that movie where it was like big guy and then jumping up in basketball?
Oh yeah, it was like Ben Stiller.
Yeah. Meet the Parents.
It was some, yeah, that's kind of, but I was trapped, and it wasn't just like over in 2 seconds, right? It was like, and he would stay there for as long, like he would do it on purpose. He would put his wet, furry chest on top of your face.
Oh, can I just say, like right now, I'm just imagining you like working out, like working so hard that you got like montage music in your background.
Yeah.
You're going, you're just like thinking about this big fat dude, and you're choking yourself. And just so weird.
Yeah, that's what I was. That was me, right? That was me. And then I just sort of, you have an epiphany where you're like, this is stupid. What am I doing? Like, why don't I just get better at jiu-jitsu?
Just use my time.
Like, this is not a profitable way to go about things.
Did you end up eating? Did you only come to that realization after you were able to deal with that problem?
I think, you know, I didn't train with him enough with. I mean, I trained enough with him that he left an impression on me. I didn't train enough with him to actually vindicate.
Yeah.
But there were other people who had similar kind of modus mos, right?
So he became the archetype.
He was the best guy at it. And he would kind of like smother you while he worked like a collar choke or something, like one of those cross-side collar
Just
chokes.
get like
you know
a
what I'm talking
paper
about?
cutter. And
Yeah,
just like,
and you'd be like,
chop
and
it
you're
out.
trying to like the sweat, and everything's in your face, and you're trying to like turn away from it, and that's how you get choked.
yeah.
Just out of grossness.
Yeah.
Um,
Fun times. Jiu-jitsu for everyone.
But eventually I was like, I need to get good at being in cross-side, like defending cross-side, and how did I do that? I just started letting people, and then my guard got better because I wasn't like upset about it, right? I wasn't afraid of the pass.
You just learn to enjoy.
I learned how to like anticipate the situation a little bit and set myself up so that I was a little bit better off than totally out of position, totally exhausted, and just totally unprepared for defense. It was like all or nothing. I'd give you hell to pass my guard, but once you pass my guard,
Yeah.
you're probably gonna win.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm not gonna put you back in guard because I'd be so exhausted.
Yeah. What was that movie, Gattaca, where it's like, don't leave anything for the swim back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just like full
That's it.
exhaustion. Yeah, somewhere around like blue or purple, I think. Someone told me that I just need to start realizing that my guard is going to get passed, and then do it on my own terms.
Yes.
Just like open it up, and then
There's some point where you realize, like, okay, trying to fight for the guard at this point is more often than not a losing proposition. So you gotta switch over to something else, and that may actually wind up working to help your guard, because when you adjust to this new reality, maybe the person will adjust because they realize, like, okay, this person is adjusting.
Yeah.
I gotta adjust too. But if you fight to the bitter end of things, then it usually doesn't work out well for you.
Yeah. Especially if they have in their mind that they can make it to the better end, and they've proven before that they can pass your guard. It's
It's just one of those things where if you get to a certain point where the person just has like one grip or one little hook, or and it's just a question of like, can I just grind out this?
Yeah, I'm not going to make an adjustment if all I need to do is wait.
Yeah.
You're the one suffering.
You're suffering, right? So, but that's the, and I think that's true for every, like when you talk about like, I'm afraid of being choked.
Mhm.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
work on it. Like,
Yeah.
put yourself in situations that are going to lead you to be choked, and don't be upset when you get choked.
Yeah.
Right?
Or just I like to foster a sense of curiosity, right? Like when things are happening that you don't expect, see what happens.
See what happens. What's the worst that could happen?
What's the
You
worst
go to
that can
sleep.
happen? Yeah, I mean, you could go to sleep and they break your arm because you can't.
Nobody's gonna break your arms in here, but
No, like that happens. That's happened before.
What?
You put someone to sleep, and then not you, but I've seen a person in a tournament actually. He put his person to sleep,
Yeah.
and then he switched to an armbar, but the person was asleep because it was a triangle,
Yeah.
and he just didn't tap to the armbar either.
Well, I mean,
The
it's
guy was-
look. I mean, if you're going to a tournament, you gotta make a decision. How you're gonna be,
It's
right?
not, it wasn't the fact that it was a tournament. He wasn't like, I'm in a tournament, I'm gonna break this guy's arm. It was, I'm in a tournament, I'm gonna put this guy to sleep. And the guy's eyes were still open.
There was a
so he
question
switched
the other
to
day about in one of these forums about like, when is it okay to break your training partner's arm? Did you see this one? It's somebody whatever. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I have this person in a full-on straight arm lock. They're not tapping. Is it okay to break their arm? And my reaction is, no, it's not okay to break their arm. That's a stupid question. This is your training partner.
A little bit.
No,
Pop, just a tweak.
no, it's not okay to break the person's arm.
Not the whole arm, but can I say when it's okay?
If the person tries to hurt you, then you can break it.
That's not a good time.
That's a perfect.
No.
Well, before they try to hurt you, they
No.
pick you up off the ground. That's when you
You
break
shouldn't
it.
revenge break people's arms.
Totally revenge break.
No,
What are you
that's
talking
bad
about?
too.
That's the best
That's-
sound. That's the sweetest sound.
Bad karma.
No, it's good karma.
You
Bad
should-
karma for them.
You should, if you both have a mutual understanding, and you
It's
both
not
talk
talks
about
about
it.
it. Oh,
If you
oh,
get
you know what?
consent-
That's a good one. There's
get
a
consent.
here's a good way because the guy was like part two. Like he had like three options. Break it, don't break it, and say something to him afterwards. Like, yo, bro, I could have broke your arm. Or C, we'll say, don't do anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah.
And I actually think that that's a good variation on that theme, which is afterwards, don't break it. Afterwards say, hey, listen, next time when your arm goes straight like that, is it okay if I break it?
Yeah.
Right? Just check with you.
Yeah.
Right? That's a nice way.
I like extended eye contact.
I don't like extended. I don't like any eye contact.
Well, like if you have the arm extended, that's the eye contact time. That's the time to do
No,
it.
but sometimes they can't see you because, like,
yeah, well,
you know.
try, give them a chance, but you should.
Hear what I would say, is if you're just in the general course of training and you
Yeah,
get someone's
no.
arm totally
Yeah, no.
straight, you shouldn't break it.
But if you like,
You shouldn't even think about breaking it.
if you roll with this person a lot,
Yeah,
and you
that's
talk
different.
for that,
That's different.
and you get their arm straight, and you've been holding it straight for 10 seconds
No.
or something, like a reasonable
Well,
amount of
look,
time.
if you've been holding it straight for 10 seconds,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
you
like,
could have broken
like
it,
it's
right?
Like,
Yeah.
okay, like.
I mean, you can always ask them, do you want me to break it?
Yeah, like you could stop and talk to them, and if they're like, I'm still defending, it's like, okay, well, I'm still breaking. Okay, great. We're both on the same wavelength. But if that person's mad at me after the roll, then something bad
Well,
happened.
but that person may not be mad, but the instructor may be mad.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't. It's bad to break people's arms.
You should be breaking. But having said that, right? It's always situational, right? Like if I see a person who goes apeshit,
Yeah.
and
You
like
shouldn't-
I've seen this,
you
right?
shouldn't go apeshit.
I've seen guys come in and go apeshit,
Mm.
and they get the shit broken.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
you
that's
should-
like so. This is the difference, right? Like, okay, we're just rolling. I don't really know anything. You don't know anything. You get me in an arm lock. No, I mean, if it's just like a regular roll,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, you shouldn't.
if I'm going total like crazy on you,
Yeah.
and I'm not tapping when you have my arm straight. I mean, there's like, okay,
I'm
you
gonna-
might want to.
no,
you might want to.
I'm still gonna give you like the
Crack it
10
a little bit.
seconds. I'm gonna give you the 10 seconds, right? I'm gonna like make sure you're aware of what's
I had a
happening.
guy.
If you
I
want
had a
to-
guy once when I was up at house. I
Uh-huh.
was training house. And the thing is about when you train with a group of people that have an attitude, right? Not a bad attitude. I mean, I liked all the guys at house, to be honest. They were all awesome.
Mhm.
But there's like an edge to those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, if they get your arm straight, you don't tap. They will break it,
Yeah.
right? I'm not usually. That's not my usual MO.
Yeah.
Right? And not in a mean way. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, they'll just tap you, they'll just crack your arm no matter what. But if you're going super hard with them, or just, I mean, they're probably going to put you to sleep, or they're probably going to break your arm if they can. Right? If
you don't
you're going aggressively and don't tap.
Yeah.
So,
I think the rule should be sometimes arm breaks happen.
yes.
Sometimes when you're breaking someone's arm, you're in the right.
Yes.
It's usually not
It's a
good.
case by case situation. It's a case by
usually
case
not
judgment.
good to break someone's arm. If you do break someone's arm, you shouldn't be emotional about it and during, right?
Well,
If you're
I'll
like-
give you my example. Here's my example about when I serve a house. Go in there. I think it was a brown belt. And I roll with this guy. He's probably like 22 or 23, maybe. I don't know. Really young guy. And he wasn't big. Like think
What is this?
like yoked, but not big. Like think like
Bruce Lee.
Jeremy a little bit, but not as yoked as Jeremy. Not as thick as Jeremy, but like not that skinny.
Ah.
Like the guy wasn't fat, or wasn't like he was like. I'm trying to think of someone that trains here that's similar build.
Ty.
No, he was tighter than Ty. Ty is good shape, but this guy was like packed muscle, but compact.
What else was he?
I don't know. So anyway, this guy, and he's like a white belt. Very explosive dude. Very explosive. And I'm rolling with him, you know how I am. I'm just kind of chill, whatever, like that. This guy is going hard.
Mhm.
Hard. And so then I get him, he's going super hard, and I get him into an arm lock. And he essentially picks me off the floor and then like rips his arm out, right?
Uh-huh.
And then like jumps on me.
Yeah.
Okay. At that point, I'm like, all right, like
The box has been opened.
okay, like
Yeah.
you've shown me that this is how it's going to be. And it wasn't like he wasn't being a jerk, I don't think, on purpose.
Yeah.
He just did not want to get tapped.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he could physically like power his way out of it, he was going to do it. And it wasn't, like if he hurt me doing it, like he wasn't trying to hurt me, I don't think, but I don't think he cared either. So, we get back in the position and I stretch his arm,
Mhm.
right? And he taps, and then the next one we go and I triangle him and he taps, but he tries to pick me up, right? Like, but I knew what was gonna happen. I hook his leg, I triangle him, and he's like gurgling, and I like get the arm, and then we're done. And I totally stretched his arm. Like I didn't break it, but because he wasn't gonna tap.
Yeah.
He was not gonna tap, and I knew if I didn't make him tap, like if I didn't make him, like I was gonna break it. I didn't want to go nuts, but I'm gonna make it really straight. And the more that he tries to pull out, the worse it's gonna be for him.
Yeah.
But he set the tone. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't like. It wasn't like I caught him. I was so mad, and then I wrecked his arm.
Yeah. It's tricky.
But I made him,
and young people.
and I made him know, like, okay.
Did you talk to him afterwards?
No, I'm not saying that. Like, he didn't want to talk to me either. He like ran away.
He probably broke his arm. He probably didn't want to talk to you.
Dude.
Well, the issue is like, it's also not that I disagree with the course of action. It's understandable. But like from his perspective, like brown belts are like this mythic figure. At least when I was a white belt, like I looked up to purple belts like they were gods. Like
Yeah,
a
me
brown
too.
belt,
For sure, blue belts.
a
When I
brown
was
belt to me was like.
Well, I did not cut.
untouchable.
Let me tell you this. This is the problem. Is that I did not cut a very impressive figure at brown belt, and so he probably was thinking, "I'm going to jack this kid or this old man
Like,
up."
I'm not gonna let this nerd win.
Basically.
His techniques.
Basically. But the difference too is like when you're a white belt and you get somebody's arm straight, it's not as easy to have as much control. You don't have as much control,
Yeah.
right? So when you're a white belt or even a blue belt and someone's thrashing around and they're physically stronger than you, the way that you break the arm is like a lot more violent than the way you or I would do it, in the sense of like you can actually get that arm super tight where they don't want to move around anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas the white belt is not going to be able to get that kind of control.
There is that like the feeling of if I don't get this now, I never will.
And they just like, they just full arch.
Yeah. Or like a lot
Yes.
of reverse triangles are like that too, where it's like you get that one opportunity to get that tap, and if you don't take it, you're gonna lose it,
Yeah.
and you might not get another one.
Yes.
Be careful with those. Those will set a tone. That's for sure.
It'd be a tone if you go to the hospital with a broken arm.
I mean, I shouldn't escalate things, but once.
I was just there for a little light roll. I mean, I don't
But
know.
nobody knows that,
I'm the chubby old, brown belt at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't that chubby. I wasn't as chubby as I am now. But
I don't know. How do you feel about that arm break that happened in the UFC that I hate with the overhook?
the Aoki?
Yeah. Is that legal in jiu-jitsu?
Oh yeah.
You just break
There's
someone's
some
arm like
really
that?
nasty ones from judo that do that.
Nothing.
Which
How do
I'm
you
actually
feel?
surprised more people in jiu-jitsu don't do.
Why? That's not a
Super-
submission.
It is a submission.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, you're
No,
gonna
you're
break, and
breaking
you're
their arm.
gonna break, and then you're gonna cry, and it's gonna be a verbal tap.
Ugh, that's not.
I think
That's like
Aoki, for the Aoki locks, for general training, that's a total douchebag move.
Yeah.
That's a total douchebag move.
Yeah.
In tournaments, beware.
I agree with you that you should
Beware.
but like.
There's no rule against it. It's a great lock too.
So if I just if I just went up to you like this and just
No, that's a strike. That's
No,
a strike.
no. I'm pushing.
Yeah.
I'm pushing.
You're allowed to push.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. So
allowed
if
to
I
push.
come here and just stomp in after making extended contact.
I don't think that you're allowed to do a direct attack on the knee. I think that's a rule. I just made it up if it's not.
But all right.
Well,
so
look, I mean, if I stand
I've
here
got
and I
I've
like
got a
you,
new strategy. I'm just gonna grit.
that is original jiu-jitsu right
Just
there. That is good jiu-jitsu. That's like hoist crazy.
Yeah, just cap your knee
That's what we
first.
call that a strike.
And
We call that a strike.
I'll get it up here and then just slide it down. Because it's not hitting if
Well, you know what will happen is that somebody's going to get DQ'd. It may be me because I try to punch you in the face after you do that. But,
You're going to be too busy worrying about your kneecaps, my friend.
well, if you don't, shear my kneecap off my leg, I'm going to punch you in the throat.
You act like I'm going to stop trying.
Well, I'm going to, yeah, and I'm going to just try to, claw your eyes out.
Because like you're also allowed to like make contact and push, right? But I'm not allowed to strike. As long as I am gentle with the contact part and then I accelerate, it's fine. Like I can't punch, but I can grab your collar and jam my knuckles into your collar.
You know, it really depends on the ref. I mean, I've seen some video of two dudes like collar time, like clubbing
Yeah.
each other. So I mean, that's in wrestling. You see that a lot.
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu, you see that a lot too.
Yeah.
Guys taking, and judo, where guys take the grip and then they start punching you with their grip.
Yeah.
You know, like there's kind of just the general give and take of a general match, right? Which I mean, there's people are rough.
Yeah.
Like that's jiu-jitsu. People are gonna punch you and elbow you in the face occasionally. Like if you didn't lose a tooth or break your nose, like okay.
I don't mind being punched in the face with my own gi, but I feel like breaking my arms without
I'm attacking your joints, Kevin.
you're yeah, but it's different. It's not a submission. It's just you're just breaking stuff.
Yeah,
It's
it's awesome.
different.
Don't let me grab your arm.
Fundamentally.
That's like the Bobby, but really fast.
Yeah.
It's like a really fast Bobby.
Bobby's really good at that.
Bobby has really good control though when off the
Yeah,
pass.
well he does it pretty fast, but he does it
He has
with
control. Yeah.
He's
He
not
gives you a chance to tap.
yeah.
He
it's-
usually, you know, he usually knows what he's
it's a
doing.
great tap, but
You
it's
know,
good. Yeah.
No, I think the Aoki is fine. I mean, in competition,
In competition,
fine.
yeah.
In the gym, don't do it.
I'd be mad.
Yeah, I'd be really mad too. I'd be mad at myself for sucking so bad at jiu-jitsu that I lost to that.
You'd be mad if you lost because you quit because you had a broken arm.
Well, I mean, look, if someone did that to me in the gym, I would be really pissed at them.
Yeah.
I think that's
That's some bullshit.
a problem.
Yeah.
That's a real problem.
You can't just break.
No, because the
people's
point
arms
of jiu-jitsu is,
to submit.
I'm not sure about the point. Maybe the point is too strong a word. One of the fundamental principles of jiu-jitsu is that we can train hard
Yeah.
to submission
Safely.
and can come back tomorrow or later tonight and train again.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll be tired, and maybe we'll decide not to because we're exhausted from the earlier training session, but we won't be physically injured. We can walk out, we can pick up our bags.
Yeah. With both arms.
We should be doing things that are specifically intended and designed
Yes.
to just injure the other person.
Because that's not a
Ever.
submission.
What?
Because that's not a submission.
Well, you will submit after your arm gets broken.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
But
also submit if
It's
I,
not a
if I
submission.
crap
It's
myself.
not something that gives your training partner an opportunity to submit.
Yeah. But
Right.
it's also not. It's not a submission.
It's just an injury,
Yeah.
which is fine in competition.
Mhm.
But in training,
Uh-huh.
I think even in competition, it should probably be banned.
It,
In a typical jiu-jitsu competition, maybe at the black belt level it's fine, but
I could see it being argued for the black belt level easily, but.
I'm actually surprised that more people don't try to do it.
Well, I mean,
But everyone
who
just
gets
sits
that
there.
deep of an underhook while standing?
Some people do,
I don't know. It's foolish. You're gonna get Uchi.
maybe.
Yeah.
If you're really good, then you won't. If
Yeah.
you're Aoki, you won't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, you know who does it? Gary does it, a kind of a version of that, but he doesn't turn on the elbow. They'll have that underhook, and then he does the Uchimata off the underhook.
Yeah.
You know, but he could just turn on the elbow
Why doesn't he?
because I think he's a nice person.
Maybe it just doesn't work unless they have MMA gloves on as well.
Oh, I think you could.
But with an MMA glove, I can lock the wrist in and then I can turn.
No, but you can see they do it in judo, and maybe it's the grip.
You
You
have
have
the
a grip too. I think you could do it on the.
They really do that in judo? That's,
Oh yeah,
that's
they
totally
have
kosher.
super nasty shoulder and elbow. Where what they do is they get on the arm and then they try to uchimata you, or they try to like kind of hip whip you, and you're so that like your idea is if I come in like this and you kind of you want to sit up, right? Like you want to stand up so that I can't do it, and then they pull on the arm.
Gross.
And so they can do that from an over-under too, right? You can do that from an over-under where, I step in and then you just whip it, right? Yeah, it's nasty. If you don't like somebody putting underhook on you,
That's like
overhook is what I was thinking.
it's like if someone is like posting like this and you just like break their thumbs off. If you're trying to pass your guard and I'm out here and you just like switch your hip right through my thumb.
Yeah.
Rude.
Don't put your
It's rude.
don't put your hand in.
Gross.
Don't expose your wrist to that kind of.
Yeah.
That's also like when you put your hands like this on somebody,
Yeah.
like that's,
Oh, with
like this type of stuff. Oh, don't do it.
I like that one.
No, so that's one too.
That was actually the first submission I ever got because it was the only thing I remembered from karate when I did it, and they used to teach us this like.
Oh, yeah.
You're being pushed by an attacker. We catch it. We go over the wrist.
This will jack you up.
I'm like, yeah, it's pretty painful, but like you could just like walk down and you just like roll through it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You do a forward roll on that, and then the guy's on your hand just kind of, it's like a gator roll.
Oh, yeah. But this was in guard, and he like grabbed something or something and just like did it. And then it never worked again. I never tried it again.
They have that from the Coast Guard.
Really?
That's like a wrist lock from the Coast Guard.
Fun. I like that. I'll have to play with it more. But I always didn't like it because I had brought it from karate, and then when I adopted the identity of someone who does jujitsu, I was like, oh,
None of that, yeah.
none of those child toys for me anymore.
Let's see. Any questions? What do we got? We got questions, comments?
Can we teach kata?
Kata? I thought you hated kata. Did you buy your Bitcoin? Did you get your... look up to Pete like he's a god, a sweaty Greek god. All right, see you guys. See you, Cameron. All right. I'm going to end this right now. Be good.